In Lorwyn, they released a series of lands called the Hideaway Lands, and each had a special ability to reveal a hidden card once a certain condition was met. But did you know that they also released the potential cards that could be hidden away in the same set as well? The best part was that each one of the revealed creatures had mild synergies with the condition needed to be met in order for the Hideaway trigger to go off, which was an absolute flavor win for me. Windbrisk Heights turned into Windbrisk Raptor after 3 or more creatures attacked, and then the creature gave those attacking creatures lifelink. Shelldog Isle turned into Isleback Spawn once a library had 20 or fewer cards in it, and then the creature gained power if a library had 20 or fewer. Howltooth Hollow turned into Hollowhorn Barghest when each opponent had no cards in hand, and the Barghest damages opponents if they have no cards in hand. Spinerock Knoll turned into Knollspine Dragon after a creature was dealt 6 or more damage, which allows you to draw a new 7 cards automatically, and Mosswort Bridge turned into Mossbridge Troll when you control creatures with power 10 or greater, and those creatures could tap to give the troll insane amounts of power. I just love the level of detail Magic the Gathering art and design go into to create sets like these. Merch. Like, comment, subscribe. Hello, welcome back to Basics, episode number 22, a show where I take EDH commanders and try to find the perfect basic lands to fit them. I love seeing someone sit down with some beautiful basic lands, but something I love even more is seeing how well those lands match their commanders. One quick note before we begin. I like to give the artists credit for their artworks, but I may not pronounce the names perfectly. I'll try my best, but please forgive me and correct me if that ever happens. First up, we've got Varina Lich Queen from Commander 2018. This artwork is stunning, using the dark background to emphasize the beautiful rings of energy coming from her eyes, the pale color of her clothes, and the mask and red dress that she wears. So, while this may be a bridge between 2 different tropes, I couldn't help but be drawn to the Dracula's secret lair for her artwork and styling. Take a look at this plains illustrated by Donato Jean-Claude, this island illustrated by Yang Hao Han, and this swamp illustrated by Jonas DeRoe. These lands all have a striking resemblance to the gravitas and calculating evil nature that Varina expresses, and it was one of those rare opportunities to showcase some beautiful and rarely represented lands. However, for more budget options, I have 3 more for you to consider. Because she's 3-color, and because those color styles are so bold, it makes it nearly impossible for me not to show you all a pairing that I think matches, because they all matched so well. Following those bold colors in Varina's artwork, take a look at this plains from the streets of New Capenna, illustrated by Olga Terashenko, this island from the streets of New Capenna, illustrated by Matteo Bassini, and this swamp illustrated by Matteo Bassini from the same set. This awesome pairing combines the regal refinery that Varina demonstrates with the bold colors and dark overtones exhibited in the Art Deco-inspired movements of Streets of New Capenna, and ultimately looks great when lined up to display. For a second option, take a look at this island illustrated by Piotr Dura from Jumpstart, that mimics the color and intellectual nature of Varina. This swamp from Jumpstart illustrated by Andreas Rocha that emphasizes her zombie tribal nature, and this awesome plains from Time Spiral, illustrated by Richard Wright, that shows a dark, bleak world barely lit by pale gold light. Ironically, this one is my favorite combination of the bunch, despite them not being full art lands. I felt like it was a real treat to see these aesthetics line up so nicely with her. And for a third pairing, I wanted to focus on the crisp line work and orderly nature of the laces that are coming from her eyes. So I went to the Plane of Alara for that, because Esper lands convey that idea very well. So take a look at this plains, this island, and this swamp, all illustrated by Chippy, that have that gorgeous star field in the background, and crisp and orderly takes on natural structures that fits Varina's design aesthetic very well. Next up, we've got a fan favorite. It's Arcades the Strategist. Arcades is designed to be the quintessential Defender commander, and there are many Defender cards in Magic the Gathering that are walls or buildings. This is important, because it felt necessary to include as many of these references in the card arts as possible so that you can feel like the walls or structures that you are playing in-game are being reflected in your mana base. And I found quite a few lands that could do the trick, but I've narrowed it down to 3 potential pairings. The first is this plains from Dragons of Tarkir, illustrated by Sam Burley, depicting an Abzan battlement. This forest, illustrated by Sam Burley as well from the same set, and this gorgeous and underutilized island from War for the Spark, illustrated by Kirsten Zungibu. I loved this pairing for its beautiful matching while also emphasizing those strong buildings that you use in the game. Another pairing would be to stick to the plane of Tarkir entirely to ensure that all the styles match up. So take a look at this island from Fate Reforged, illustrated by Florian de Jessencourt, and this plains illustrated by Sam Burley from Khans of Tarkir, alongside this forest illustrated by Sam Burley as well from Khans of Tarkir. These lands do a great job of focusing on the same things from the last pairing, and can be mixed and matched to suit your tastes. For a third styling, I wanted to show off some amazing panoramic lands that fit this theme. They are the Rise of Eldrazi basic land panoramics that show off the Hedrons aligned in defense against the Eldrazi. Take a look at this Plains panoramic illustrated by John Avon, this beautiful island panoramic illustrated by Vincent Proce, and this forest panoramic illustrated by Young Park. These fit the color and the theme of Arcades, strategizing behind a massive defensive structure, and the colors match up well too, which is a great addition. And for an honorable mention, take a look at this awesome forest that came as an extra in a secret lair drop that has the forest art etched into a wall. I wasn't able to find any other matching artworks that could go with this, but I felt like it was worth mentioning with respect to a discussion about Arcades. Number 3 on the list, we've got Surrak Dragonclaw from Khans of Tarkir. I really liked this artwork because of its nuances, like the fact that his cloak is the bifurcated head of the bear he killed to gain his rank. Also, there is snow falling in the scene as well, which led me initially down a line of snow-covered basics to find for him. So take a look at this snow-covered island illustrated by Elena Danner from the Eldraine Wonderland Secret Lair drop, as well as this snow-covered mountain, and this snow-covered forest from the same Secret Lair drop as well. These are higher budget, but I think they are very worth it when you see them lined up and matching so perfectly. But if you would like some more high budget options, I wanted to show off how well the unglued cycle of basic lands fits with his framing and his card art. Take a look at this island illustrated by Darren Bader, this mountain illustrated by Tom Wanderstrand, and this forest illustrated by Tyrese Nielsen. The coloring matches up strangely well with his artwork, having a light and hazy appearance with its brushstrokes, along with a bright and pastel coloring to match him. But for a third and more affordable option, take a look at this forest illustrated by Elena Danner from Commander 2016, this mountain illustrated by Rob Alexander from M11, and this island from Theros, illustrated by Raul Vitali. I really liked how this pairing focuses on the deep yellowish-orange color that washes the scene in Surrak's artwork, and helps to bring it out when lined up together. Number 4 on the list, we've got Kirik, Son of Yawgmoth, who is a commander that almost writes himself. Kirik is about as Phyrexian as they come, with a dark stronghold in the background and green spikes protruding from his body as he looks on at the plane of New Phyrexia. So when looking for basics for him, it became clear to try to find ones that portray that Phyrexian influence as best as possible, while also retaining its color synergies. Take a look at this swamp from Time Spiral, illustrated by John Avon, which fits his themes, or you could use this swamp illustrated by Vance Kovacs to fit his color styling. Finally, you could choose this swamp illustrated by Craig Mullins from Time Spiral as well, which does the same as the first two, but is a lot darker as well. Ultimately, the choice is yours, because all of these can work for the grim and mutagenic futuristic setting that Kirik is standing in. For his alternate framing, you can see that there is a heavy blue emphasis instead of the yellowish green that you saw in his earlier art style. So I wanted to show these 3 different pairings that were not in this Time Spiral land, so you could choose between them. Take a look at this swamp from the dual decks Jace vs. Vraska, illustrated by Yang Hao Han, that depicts a medieval stronghold swathed in that blue light, as well as this swamp illustrated by Jonas DeRoe that has the Cabal stronghold in the background. While it doesn't match up directly theme-wise, I felt like the rows of sentient creatures in this dark field while a spire blasts light up into the air around them was a very cool juxtaposition to make. Or you could try this swamp from the streets of New Capenna that has the blues, a mild hint of the green, and these strange futuristic elements that somehow work even though they are from different planes. However, these options are just some color matching ones that you could choose from that aren't necessarily Phyrexian inspired, so feel free to choose whichever ones suit your tastes. And finally, after all these intense and serious commanders, let's try something a bit more lighthearted. It's Phelddagrif, illustrated by Amy Weber. A more wholesome and fun commander, Phelddagrif is a pastel combination of bright and cartoonish colors, alongside a stroke outline that finish the children's storybook motif that it's going for. It was actually quite tough to find lands for him, because this style is not one that's commonly reflected in MTG card arts at all, much less the basic lands. But take a look at this bright and sunny plains from Ice Age, illustrated by Christopher Rush. This forest from Unlimited, illustrated by Christopher Rush as well, and this island, illustrated by Ku Zhuming, that I think matches up very well. I liked this pairing because while it didn't have the bright pink color going for it, it definitely enhanced the art style that Phelddagrif was emulating, which made it feel good in my opinion. I have one more that I felt was strong enough to mention as well, and they also matched up in borders and frames. Take a look at this plains illustrated by Tom Wanderstrand from Mirage, this island illustrated by Tony Studlow from Onslaught, and this forest illustrated by Tony Roberts from the Arena League promos. I think my favorite part of this pairing was the plains, which had a series of savanna animals in it that I think matched up with the hippopotamus motif as well. But there you have it. 5 more commanders sorted for which basic lands I think match them best. But I want to see what you think. Tell me which commanders you'd like me to try and pick out basic lands for. Comment below and let me know, and have a great day.